What happens when the one person you're supposed to protect is the same person who can expose you at the worst possible moment? Because Chapter 10 of Shinobi Undercover doesn't just continue the fight from last chapter. It breaks the core rule that has kept this entire mission stable up until now: separation between the mission and the person. And the second that line disappears, everything starts collapsing. Not just the battlefield, but the identities of the people fighting on it. We pick up exactly where Chapter 9 left us. The mall is no longer a public space. It's a collapsing structure, literally sliced apart by Hachikuma's presence. And from a shinobi operations standpoint, the situation is actually clean, defined, almost textbook. One operative engages, one operative extracts. This is straight out of classical doctrine. You see variations of this in texts like the Bansenshukai, where role clarity under chaos is what prevents total mission failure. And that's exactly what operator number 9 enforces immediately. Yodaka is ordered to extract Aoi. Umineko is ordered to stop the enemy. No overlap, no confusion, no emotion, just execution. And for a moment, it works perfectly. But the flaw in the system was never tactical. It was human. The first image we get is destruction. A store cleanly sliced in half. Not crushed, not shattered, separated. And that visual matters, because it mirrors what's about to happen next. Aoi runs toward Yodaka, not because she was guided, not because she was protected into position, but because she recognized him. She says it plainly. She thought it was him. So she came over. And this is where one of the most important theories in the series, the idea of Aoi as a truth anchor, stops being a theory and becomes a confirmed mechanic. Because in traditional shinobi philosophy, especially in the Shōninki, concealment isn't just about hiding your body. It's about suppressing your presence, your intent, your identity. You become forgettable, unremarkable, invisible, not because you can't be seen, but because no one notices you. Aoi does the opposite. She notices through it, every time. And here's the dangerous part. She doesn't hesitate. She moves toward the truth, even when that truth is standing in the middle of a battlefield. And this moment doesn't just affect Yodaka. Hachikuma sees it too. From outside the collapsing structure, he watches them, tracks them, processes something that immediately stands out to him. She wasn't there a second ago. Now she is. And more importantly, he recognizes her, not as a random civilian, but as Aoi Mukai. That confirmation is terrifying, because it means the targeting isn't random anymore. It's informed, deliberate, which feeds directly back into theory number 1. That Aoi isn't just a victim of circumstance, she's the center of something much larger. Operator number 9 doesn't hesitate. The command is immediate. Leave Hachikuma to Umineko. Extract the assignment. Notice the wording. Not protect Aoi. Not get her out safely. Extract the assignment. This is pure system language, and it reflects something we've seen since Chapter 1. Operator number 9 doesn't deal in people. He deals in objectives, variables, outcomes, and Yodaka follows the command. He grabs Aoi's hand and runs. Efficient, direct, correct. But even here, there's already friction. Aoi reacts, not in fear, but in surprise. Because to her, this isn't an extraction, it's contact. While Yodaka executes the mission, we cut back to Umineko. And this is where the chapter quietly sets up its second core question. What happens when someone who does everything right faces someone who doesn't follow any rules at all? Umineko squares off against Hachikuma. Calm, focused, controlled. Everything about his movement is deliberate, and that's exactly why Hachikuma immediately dismisses him. Not because he's weak, but because he's predictable. Umineko initiates cleanly, a direct approach, controlled distance, a high-speed kick aimed to test reaction. Hachikuma dodges, barely. Not because he had to, but because he felt like it. That distinction matters. Umineko follows up immediately. Hidden blade from the shoe, deployed mid-motion. A reversal strike layered into the same attack cycle. This is advanced sequencing. It reflects something closer to Mai Janhei, the management of space and timing. Every movement is calculated to maintain pressure while minimizing exposure. From a technical standpoint, it's flawless. And Hachikuma hates it. Hachikuma calls it out directly. You've got hidden weapons, you're quick, a model ninja, and then immediately rejects it. I hate guys like that. This is where the chapter sharpens its philosophy, because in texts like the Bansenshukai, mastery is often described as refinement, polishing technique until there's no wasted motion. But there's a second layer, less often emphasized, adaptability under chaos. Technique creates structure, but structure creates expectation. And expectation can be read. Hachikuma isn't reacting to Umineko's attacks, he's reading the pattern behind them. At first glance, Hachikuma looks careless. Loose posture, minimal effort, almost bored. But that's not incompetence, that's efficiency taken to a dangerous extreme. He doesn't optimize movement, he minimizes involvement. Instead of engaging directly, he reshapes the battlefield. The shift happens quietly, no dramatic activation, no named technique, just a small motion. And suddenly, everything clicks. Threads, 6 of them, so thin they're nearly invisible, already in place, already controlling the space. Umineko only notices them after the fact, which means the fight was decided before he even understood the rules. Hachikuma slices the railings, the pillars, the floor, not randomly, structurally. This isn't about hitting Umineko, it's about removing the concept of stable footing altogether. In traditional combat, Mai defines engagement, distance, timing, positioning. Hachikuma eliminates it. There is no safe range, no stable ground, no predictable angle. By the time Umineko reacts, the entire floor is already segmented, and then it collapses. This is where the bird symbolism locks in. The crested honey buzzard doesn't hunt like a typical predator. It raids, it tears apart entire nests, endures stings, ignores resistance, because it knows the structure will break before it does. That's exactly what Hachikuma is doing here. He's not fighting Umineko. He's dismantling the environment until resistance becomes impossible. It's not a duel, it's extraction. While all of this unfolds, Operator Number 9 is doing something just as important. He's identifying the threat, not emotionally, systematically, height, demeanor, behavior. And then the key trait, apathy. Umineko confirms it piece by piece, almost like he's feeding data into a system. And then Hachikuma says it. Can't AI just take over already? It sounds like nonsense. But placed here, it becomes something else entirely. Because Operator Number 9 is doing exactly that. Processing inputs, matching patterns, reaching conclusions. He's functioning like an algorithm, while Hachikuma fights on instinct. This is machine logic versus predator intuition. The moment the profile matches, Operator Number 9 reaches a conclusion, Hachikuma, and without hesitation, he changes the command, retreat. This overrides the previous order to stop him, and that reversal is critical, because it aligns with a principle found in the Book of Five Rings. Know when a battle cannot be won through direct engagement. Disengagement isn't failure, it's survival. Umineko questions it, just for a second. But that second matters, because this ties directly into what we learned in Chapter 9. His composure isn't natural, it's maintained, driven by pressure, expectation, the need to perform at a certain level, especially with Yodaka present. So when the order changes, there's friction, between obedience and pride, between logic and identity. And in that moment, he doesn't retreat.
And while the structure falls apart behind them, Yodaka is doing exactly what he was trained to do. Move fast, create distance, minimize risk. It's efficient, it's correct. And then Aoi stops him, not with urgency, but with discomfort. My feet hurt. It's such a small line, but it completely disrupts the rhythm of the scene, because this isn't how civilians are supposed to behave in danger. They panic, they freeze, they follow. Aoi does none of those things. She interrupts the mission flow.
She tells him to slow down, to stay calm, to be aware of their surroundings. And what's fascinating is, she's describing principles that align almost perfectly with Zanshin, Kanshin, that lingering awareness, that controlled presence even in motion. But Aoi isn't trained. She hasn't read doctrine. She hasn't been conditioned. So where does that instinct come from? This is what makes her so dangerous to the system, because she arrives at the right conclusions, without the framework that usually controls them. And Yodaka recognizes it immediately. She's right, but he also knows this isn't the time. For the first time in this sequence, Yodaka hesitates internally, not physically, but mentally, because he's caught between two truths. The mission demands urgency, Aoi demands composure, and instead of overriding her, he adjusts, just slightly. But that adjustment matters, because this is no longer pure obedience. This is interpretation. Then Aoi says it again. Nozuki, his code name, not Yodaka, not the identity he's trying to maintain, the one tied directly to his function. And she says it so casually, so naturally, like it belongs to him. This ties directly into Kyojitsu, Shushu, the interplay between truth and deception. Yodaka is maintaining a false identity. Aoi is unintentionally pulling the real one to the surface. And the more she uses it, the harder it becomes to separate the two. And then the conversation shifts, completely. Aoi brings up the sports festival, right here, in the middle of an active threat. And on the surface, it feels out of place. But structurally, it's precise. Because the sports festival represents something very specific. Participation, not observation, not protection from the outside, being part of something. Yodaka immediately resists, not outwardly, but internally. He explains it simply. He avoids events. He doesn't want to ruin the mood. He feels out of place. This is one of the clearest expressions of his internal identity conflict so far. He doesn't see himself as someone who belongs in normal life. He sees himself as something that disrupts it. And this is where the deeper layer comes in. The sports festival event we're building toward is the three-legged race. A forced pairing, shared movement, mutual timing, synchronization. Now look at what's happening in this chapter. Umineko engages alone, fails to control the fight. Yodaka operates separately, can't reach the target in time. But when they overlap, even unintentionally, they create an opening. This is mirror storytelling. The festival isn't just a future event, it's a structural preview of how they'll need to operate. Aoi doesn't analyze any of this. She just says it plainly. She's looking forward to it, because she couldn't enjoy things before. She didn't have people to share them with, and now she does. That simplicity carries weight, because it contrasts directly with how Yodaka experiences the same world. For Aoi, connection creates meaning. For Yodaka, connection creates risk. And then he says it, carefully, honestly. If you're looking forward to it, then I will too. There's no command behind that. No directive, no operational benefit. That's not a tactical decision. That's personal alignment. For the first time, Yodaka isn't just reacting to Aoi. He's choosing to value what she values. And that's a major shift. Because once that happens, the mission is no longer neutral. It becomes biased. The scene slows. Aoi smiles. The space behind her is quiet, empty, and visually, it feels like a pause, a break in the chaos. But in storytelling terms, this is a classic pre-impact frame, the moment right before everything changes. The moment doesn't ease us in, it detonates. Behind Aoi, the wall explodes inward, concrete shatters, debris floods the frame, and Umineko's body is sent through it. No exchange, no warning, just overwhelming force. This is the clearest demonstration yet of the gap between tiers. Against Miyaki, there was tension, back and forth. Against Hachikuma, there is only dominance. And then it happens. Faster than the eye can track, a thread wraps around Aoi, pulls her in, no struggle, no resistance. Hachikuma catches her like it's routine, like this was always going to happen. And then, he knocks her out instantly, not violently, efficiently. It'd be such a bother if she struggled. That line tells you everything about him. Aoi isn't a person to him. She's a task, and anything that complicates the task gets removed. We cut to Yodaka's eyes, and they change. That familiar blankness, that hyper-focus, the state we've only ever seen triggered under a top priority command. But this time, there's no command, no operator, no authorization. This is internal, which raises a critical question. Is this growth, or is this the system breaking down? Because what we're seeing here isn't just mushin, it's mushin driven by emotion. And traditionally, that's a contradiction. Mushin is supposed to be empty, free of attachment. But Yodaka's trigger is clear. Aoi was taken. Yodaka moves instantly. A roundhouse kick, precise, direct, lethal. But Hachikuma doesn't meet it head-on. He doesn't block. He doesn't evade conventionally. He activates the environment again. The ground beneath Yodaka's plant leg, already cut, already unstable. It collapses. And with it, Yodaka falls. This is layered combat thinking at its highest level. Hachikuma isn't reacting to attacks. He's setting traps in advance and letting his opponent step into them. And just when the sequence should end, it doesn't, because something impossible happens. Umineko grabs Hachikuma's leg, barely conscious, covered in blood. He shouldn't be moving, and even Hachikuma recognizes that. What's your deal? That confusion matters, because for the first time, Hachikuma encounters something he didn't account for. Not technique, not speed, but will. Earlier, Hachikuma defined guts as reckless instinct, charging in, ignoring risk. But Umineko reframes it completely. It's do or die. So how's this for guts? This aligns far more closely with what we see in texts like the Budo Shoshinshu. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's action taken with full awareness of the consequences. Umineko knows he can't win this exchange. He knows he should retreat, but he also knows if he lets go, the mission ends. So he holds on, and that single act creates time, and that time is everything. Because above them, Yodaka is already moving, falling, adjusting, realigning mid-air. This is where the nightjar symbolism becomes precise. A nocturnal hunter, silent, invisible until the moment it strikes. Yodaka disappears from the immediate exchange, only to reappear from above. Perfect angle, perfect timing. The kick lands, clean. The force is undeniable. A shockwave bursts outward. Debris erupts across the structure. Hachikuma is launched, thrown across the mall, through railings, into the stores beyond. And in that moment, Aoi is separated from him. This is what the team was supposed to do from the start. But it didn't happen through coordination. It happened through instinct, through overlap, through a split-second alignment of intent. This is the first glimpse of what they could become if they ever truly sync. And even after that, Hachikuma stands, unbothered, almost annoyed. Come on, just let me have her. There's no escalation in tone, no anger, which is more unsettling than if there was. Because it suggests something simple. He's still not taking this seriously. Yodaka holds Aoi, steady, protective. And when he speaks, I can't let you have her, not Aoi, not the assignment, not the target. Aoi, this is the point of no return. The mission has been redefined, not by command, but by choice. This chapter draws a clear line between three types of fighters. Hachikuma, instinct without attachment, Umineko, structure pushed to its limit. Yodaka, a weapon beginning to choose. And that last category is the most dangerous of all. Because once a weapon chooses its purpose, it stops being controllable. Aoi is a truth anchor, now actively influencing combat behavior. Yodaka's switch state, no longer command-dependent, emotionally triggered Umineko's arc. Breakthrough moment, acting beyond performance pressure. Fugitive hierarchy, reinforced. Hachikuma remains overwhelmingly dominant. So now the real question isn't whether they can protect Aoi, it's whether they can do it, without becoming something they were never meant to be. Because if Yodaka can enter that state on his own, what happens when he can't turn it off? And if this is Hachikuma not trying, what does the fight look like when he does? If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like and subscribe, because next time we're heading into Chapter 11. And after this, there's no clean way forward.